That's true.
Right.
Now, getting to your work here,
Yeah.
you are heavily involved with quantitative, being part of the finance side, as well as you are, I believe, head of the analytics and strategy team?
Correct, correct.
So is the strategy here driven a lot by numbers?
Yes, I think it is. Generally eBay is a very data-driven company, and so it is always an important part of what we do. Usually the strategy is but it's a combination of different things that I think inform good business judgment. Data will help to answer a lot of questions and settle a lot of arguments. It's not the only thing, though, that we will look at. We'll typically start with an assessment of the competitive environment. We'll consider brand, we'll consider value proposition, we'll consider what eBay is supposed to be within the context of e-commerce. And there are opinions on all those questions. And so we try to ground a lot of what we do in good research and good data and good analysis. And we try to do that because it provides an objective lens to a lot of those questions. There are going to be questions and debates that are ultimately will use data, but will use other inputs as well to get to the right answer. For instance, launching a television commercial in the fourth quarter might be something that the data alone would suggest. Very, very hard to show that a brand campaign television commercial in and of itself creates any value for the company. It doesn't create any revenue in the quarter. It doesn't create any user interaction, at least none that we can prove.
At least it doesn't have any immediate effect. It's more of a lagged effect if there is.
Yeah, if there is, and that's very hard to measure. The more you get into lagged effects, indirect effects, or anything that is basically a brand TV campaign as a part of an integrated marketing campaign could make a lot of sense. But you can't isolate for any impact or benefit coming out of the TV brand campaign itself. So, what we try to do is we try to follow the business judgment, and we allow for a certain amount of flexibility or a certain amount of qualitative reasoning that says, if you want to launch a new program, we have to communicate it. There are a number of ways to communicate it. We believe television is going to be powerful and impactful. And I think we can and often do set the strategy based on those types of judgments. What we try to do, though, is we try to work with business operators to tell them up front, what is the hypothesis that you are trying to prove, one way or the other. Understand that if you launch a television brand campaign, spend a lot of money behind it, you can't prove revenue, you can't prove gross merchandise sales, you can't prove users coming to the site. Fine, that's okay. What about awareness of the eBay brand? What about a change in perception about the eBay brand? Is that something you think you ought to be able to try to prove? Not right away, but on a lag basis, 6 months down the road. If so, let's do this in a scientific way that helps us validate that. Let's launch the brand television commercial in half the country, but not the other half the country. Let's do it more aggressively in these regions, but not those regions. Let's 6 months from now agree that we'll come back and look at the data in those regions where we launched the television commercial 6 months from now to see if any brand awareness metrics moved, trying to control for all the other variables. So, if it does move, fantastic. If it doesn't, that's an important input into our ongoing thinking on our brand campaign. And so, if we can at least ground some of those business judgments in either data or objective information gathering, test versus control, and the scientific method, then we usually do a very good. Then I think are doing a service to our management team and our shareholders to give them proper return for their money.
So this is experimentation is great, but you also have a lot of behavioral data.
Yeah.
And of course, eBay has spent a lot of effort, resources in developing that as a mechanism of guidance.
Yeah.
Now, smaller organizations, mid-sized retailers, do you suppose that they have the wherewithal to develop that system in place, or is it too prohibitive?
No, I think they generally can. It's usually just a matter of thinking through beforehand what you want to test, and then how do you set up a test in a way that's going to provide a meaningful result. It generally can be as simple as making sure you have control groups. It may mean coordinating efforts between marketing and product so that you don't do them both at the same time. You move the marketing lever first, the product lever next, and the benefit to spacing that out is you can then look at time periods and say, in this time period, we only moved marketing, did a brand television commercial, ran a radio ad or what have you, So in this time period, we only moved the product lever. We held marketing constant and we launched a new feature. And now we look at the business metrics and we determine when the metrics moved or if they moved at all. And so we can thoughtfully set up a test and a control group and environment where we know what's working, what's not working.
So is your marketing driven more by experimentation, or is it also part of behavioral analysis of individual visitors and whatever data that you've collected from their purchasing history and so on and so forth?
Yeah.
Where you may not have complete information,
yeah,
and you may not have any causality, because in case
yeah.
of experimentation you can prove that as a causality.
Yeah.
But in sort of behavioral data, it's just that this is what the data says. It doesn't mean one thing or the other. So do you do a lot of behavioral analysis, or you do not?
We do. We do. One of the great benefits of being an internet company is that you're able to spend, most of our marketing budget is online marketing, and so you're able to spend money online and look at user behavior in real time. And within 24 hours, we know users who saw our advertising did or did not buy the items we were advertising. And the keywords that we bought worked, didn't work. We have very, very clear return metrics that we analyze really every day. And so we use that information to make decisions about our marketing spend. There are a couple of areas of marketing where we don't do as much behavioral analysis. So for instance, offline marketing or television campaigns. That is not, the decisions around that is not driven so much by behavioral targeting as it is how we want to spend money on an integrated marketing campaign across the world, and how we want to reinforce brand messaging. But most of our marketing is very much driven by behavioral data, user targeting, and looking at response metrics.
So is this something that you had to initially spend a lot of time and resources to get it ready for analysis, or is it something that can be put together very quickly?
We've spent a lot of time working on this to get it right. But we spend a lot of money in online marketing, maybe more than any other company in the world, and so therefore we have probably more marketing analytics than most other companies and maybe any other company in the world. A smaller company can definitely do some very intelligent optimization with a smaller team, but this is something that just given the size and the complexity of eBay, it's been a large area of investment, and so we put a lot of time and effort into it, a lot of people. And we evolve and have really gotten world class at doing this now over the course of the last 8 or 10 years.
And do you do all of that?